This is Commander Crochet Sierras from the Scudam Centaurus District. Commander Tennyson, do you copy?
What? Oh, hey. Sorry, dude. Signal's a bit fuzzy here.
Fuzzy? Where are you? We didn't receive your key code to enter our quadrant. I just thought I'd check in. You realize what today is, right?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I'm still a few ways away over in the honor system. Thought it'd be a quick stop, but I found a deactivated Horus when I got here. Looked damaged, too. I think I need to stick around a bit longer. Really check things out.
Last time you were late, the fellas threw a fit. Flew up here and trashed the whole base camp. Ain't you got some type of teleported creature on that wrist of yours?
Look, I get it. They're my responsibility. I do want to be there, trust me. But if Siscare's on the loose, he's my responsibility too.
All right. Well, what do you want me to tell him?
Find the closest Horus and program him the coordinates. I'll send him something to give them through his teleporter chamber. Then, I'll be there as soon as I can. Sound good?
Hey, don't ask me how to raise your kids. I'm just a messenger.
Good evening, extranet and multidimensional travelers. Welcome back to And Beyond, where we plunge into the void and explore ever-expanding multiverse. I am your host, the R300 Orion IT Systems Model TP-V36, but you can call me Horus. Today we'll be visiting the polar planet of Kylmyys. Please keep all appendages inside the portal at all times, and please refrain from eating the green snow. You don't want to know what it's for. Welcome to Kylmyys, the coldest planet of its system. On the surface, it appears to be nothing but a blizzard-swept, barren wasteland. Despite its chilling terrain, the planet's core is actually composed mainly of sulfurous magma. The heat given off from this core sits roughly around 14,000 degrees Fahrenheit and creates vast oceanic pockets below the frozen caps of the surface. In contrast, the surface temperature sits frigidly at negative 226 degrees Fahrenheit. Surprisingly, making Kylmyys the perfect home for its sulfur-based extremophile species. But it hadn't always been this way. According to fossil records and recovered ancient tech, hundreds of thousands of years ago there existed a species known as the Etterkennic. They were an industrial people that sought out the stars and strived to achieve interplanetary travel. Rather than building vessels to travel off-world, they attempted to make their world mobile, spending centuries creating devices known as world pilots. They essentially created dozens of massive artificial volcanoes that tapped into the planet's molten core in attempts to use them as rockets, propelling their planet across the universe. Sadly though, this failed quite horribly. Upon ignition, the combined temperature of each world pilot overheated the atmosphere, burning up its oxygen and killing most all surface life in minutes. With the engines left unsupervised, a mass meltdown occurred, drowning the surface in molten metals as well as evaporating its oceans. Based on the composite records, we theorize that over the following 1,000 or so years, the extreme temperature increase worked its way through the planet, melting it down into one molten metal mass. And that shortly after, the atmosphere triggered an Ice Age-level temperature shift in attempts to repair itself. Through this Ice Age, the ocean's vapor recondensed, cooling the planet's surface to a solid metal. This capping off the majority of the planet's heat leak. The outermost layers of the ocean were frozen into caps that still stand today. Though the only things surviving of the Etterkennic are their fossils, Kylmyys is still full of life. Welcome to the Phrygian Caps, home to the Necrofriggians. Bipedal insectoid Genodomorpha, standing between 5 and 7 feet tall with a wingspan of 13 feet. Accompanying the ability of flight, they possess psychrophilic glands throughout their bodies that secrete a mixture of liquid nitrogen and water. These glands do two things: regulate the temperature of the body and provide oxygen internally for the times where they are unable to breathe. Necrophrygians have an exothermic circulatory system, meaning they are cold-blooded, ironically, and lack the veins and arteries necessary to circulate their blood, regulating their body temperature. Because of this, they feed on metals and molten ores, using their glands to cool the metals to a safe, balanced temperature that is not too hot to cause them harm, but still hot enough to keep them warm for roughly 6 to 8 months. Through glandular control, they can also become intangible, heating their bodies, turning them into a permeable state, similar to a sulfur gas. They use this ability to traverse terrains that by normal means would be untraversable. In this state, they're unable to breathe, so those psychrophilic glands come in real handy. Since the chemical composition of their bodies has such a high freezing point, anything they come in contact with can be susceptible to freezing. The Necrofriggians are a very antisocial people living separate from each other. They craft small nest pockets of molten metal acquired from the planet's core. These nests are carved into the caps and used to keep the Necrofriggian nice and warm while it rests. They make sure to build these nests far away from others, as to not be disturbed. Due to this independent style of living, Kylmyys lacks any form of society, making living here a survival of the fittest. Because of the harshities of the planet, many actually choose to venture out into space and establish new homes wherever they see fit. But, no matter where they travel, around the age of 80 Earth years, all Necrofriggians have a strong urge to return to the planet to reproduce. Necrofriggians are an asexual species reproducing through a form of cytokinesis after consuming roughly 4 times their body weight in metal. Traveling up to the surface, they'll build a hatching nest from regurgitated birthing bile. Upon completion, they will return to their solitude, leaving the hatchlings to their own devices. Hungry from the moment of hatching and not yet able to become intangible, the hatchlings venture to the system's sun to feed on solar plasma. The instinct to carry out this reproductive cycle is so strong that even Commander Ben Tennyson's Necrofriggian form, Big Chill, is no exception to this. During his earlier years, Ben was overwhelmed by this transformation and produced an eclipse of 14 Necrofriggian children. Since leaving Earth, the offspring's excessive feeding on Earth's sun made the Plumbers step in and relocate these adolescents to their native Homeworld, where Ben has taken the responsibility to check in routinely. Although he is often prone to being late or missing these gatherings completely, much to the offspring's disliking. Hence why I am here instead of on Snelly. This is a rare occurrence where all the siblings in an eclipse survive, as on average, one nest will produce up to 12 hatchlings, but of that 12, less than half will make it to maturity, due to poaching, as well as the predator of the polar storms, the Psycholeopterans. Psycholeopterans are large quadruped Vespa with a body length of about 13 feet and a dual wingspan of roughly 17 feet. Also equipped with psychrophilic glands, they possess many of the same abilities as the Necrofriggians. The only notable difference in ability they possess is their most dangerous, being their hypnotic gust. This ability is a combination of a rare psychedelic pheromone they secrete, combined with a reflective scale pattern on their wings. The combination of these two overload the prey's mesolimbic dopamine system, or reward center of the brain, and put the prey into a hypnotic state. They use this ability as their main form of hunting, having the prey willingly surrender themselves to the Psycholeopteran. Over the years, Necrofriggians became wise to this hungry hypno, and now rarely populate the surface, making the Psycholeopteran's main food source exclusively fresh hatchlings. Due to the amount of time between Necrofriggian birth cycles, the Psycholeopteran will go years on end without eating. This starvation, combined with planetary poaching, has turned them into an endangered species. Fun fact, poachers use the pheromones and ground-up scales of the Psycholeopteran to make optical ingested drugs called trip drops. Psycholeopterans appear to be the apex predator of the planet, but it seems as though that fact will not stand the test of time. Traveling back down past the Phrygian caps, we find ourselves in the waters of the Doused Divide. A large oceanic ring surrounding the planet's core sits Goldilocks between two extremely different temperatures, making for a cold yet balanced ecosystem teeming with life. Salt-capped crab, cephala imps, cellofish, Boyantula. All life in the Doused Divide seems to be composed exclusively of various forms of decapod and tetheta. The Doused Divide is an open ocean all the way down to its metallic floor, and on this floor we find the home of the Thermoscorians. Polypetal metallic shelled isopods varying in size, the Thermoscorians possess thermophilic glands throughout their body. Working similarly to the psychrophilic glands of the Necrofriggian, these too provide oxygen and temperature regulation. The notable difference, however, is that these glands also control the metabolism, meaning that if they want to keep warm and breathing, they need to keep eating. Whether it be seafood or random metallic debris, most anything that passes a Thermoscorian's maw becomes lunch. You could say they have an iron stomach. Ha 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 ha! Through glandular control, they are able to heat their metallic shells to a malleable state, allowing them to stretch and contort their forms into an array of shapes. They use this ability mainly to burrow into the ocean floor to rest. The Thermoscorians are a very active and competitive people. Racing and challenging each other, they are restless from the moment they rise to the moment they drop. Living in castes of 7 to 8, they typically spend their days playing and socializing. But there are certain individuals of each group tasked with work duty, hollowing structures for homes, fishing for the young, and working to melt the ice sky above them. These workers ensure the happiness and safety for their families. When reproducing, expecting Thermoscorians will lay a mound of eggs and burrow on top of it to keep them warm, melting their shells into the ground to ensure no loss of heat. Once the eggs hatch, the mother superheats its body, making it soft and malleable so that the hatchlings can then feed on it, fueling the spark for their own thermophilic glands. After a few weeks of feeding, the hatchlings will rocket out of the mother's carapace and be adopted into their previous caste. On average, one individual will birth about 4 hatchlings. Of those 4, nearly all make it to full maturity. There are no known predators of the Thermoscorians, but every now and then some will go missing. Most are thought to have sputtered out and just simply sank to the depths, while some believe they are kidnapped and consumed by Necrofriggian. Please, do not harm me! Activating, Tekton Blast Recoil!
Oh man, it's just another one of those Horus things.
With Ben's key code?
So he's not coming again, is he?
Your father, unfortunately...
Man, are you serious? Seriously?
He's not getting anything.
Quiet down, siblings. Let's hear him out.
Oh, you must be Glacier, Ben's most assertive offspring. That must make you Smoothie, Kenko, Ishiyama, Slurpee, I think that's Maxwell in the back.
Cut it out, brasshole! He may have given us those names, but he is not our dad.
I mean, genetically...
We call ourselves the Ice Pack.
Well, your father also calls himself stupid names, so you have that in common.
Hey, that's not nice.
That's just maybe Maxwell's.
But beside that, the reason I'm actually here is because your father wants you to know he really cares about you and will visit you as soon as he can. He wanted me to bring you this special gift. This metal is Ouroboreum, a glistening ore infused with mana. This rainbow sheen stone can only be found in the Kingdom of Anywhere.
That was horrible!
Oh, well, your father assumed since it was such a rare material that it may have been considered a delicacy.
That's not how it works at all! If he really cared, he'd know that.
Yeah, that shit's fucking gross.
Hey, maybe he did send us a snack after all.
Yeah, you know what? I am pretty hungry.
Oh, you're feeling really tonight. You're looking like a snack. You're looking tasty.
Oh, well, you know, I should really get going.
No! Why don't you stay for dinner?
I'm an android, I don't eat, so there's no need for me to stay for time, you guys. Please don't.
Crazy how many of these things we go through. Horus must be made of a pretty cheap material, huh?
The bioartificial squids we grow cost about 23,000 pounds of Taden. Printing them drains the Plumbers a significant amount of our budget.
Oh.
Oh?
Well, I kinda left the horse printer on overnight to screw with Blukich and Driba. Wouldn't it be funny if they walked into over 200 good evenings being shouted at them?
Good evening. Good evening.
It's kind of funny, right?
You printed 200 extra Horus droids just for a prank?
I didn't know they were expensive. They break all the time. Only reason we're bringing this one back is because its video card kept recording after it lost signal. Why would someone deactivate a Horus if they're just going to break it? It might be a solid lead on Zaskare. Hey, you think my Omnitrix could read it?
You are changing the subject. What are you going to do when Magister Patellidae finds out?
He's not gonna find out. I'm sure we'll think of something to do with the spares. And even if we don't, who cares? What's a few extra Horus droids lying around gonna do? They're harmless, right?